All righty. Welcome. Hello, I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I am so excited to bring my friend Charles Byrd to you today. Charles and I met, was it just last year?
Yes.
It feels, Charles, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it feels longer than that. In all the good ways. So we met at a mastermind in San Francisco, and I joke, and anytime I introduce Charles to somebody, I tell people he hasn't been able to get rid of me ever since. And Charles, the way that I like to introduce Charles is basically I consider him a productivity and efficiency expert. He's really a technology guy as well, but he uses those in all of the best ways. He optimizes technology, optimizes productivity in a way that really supports relationships, relationship building, and ultimately business building, right? But it's really a relationship centric approach. So I adore my friend Charles. His version of who he is that, his company, which you can find online, Byrd LLC, specializes in online productivity training, product launches, and online marketing. He is a productivity and efficiency expert who utilizes technology to fully support relationships and relationship building. And I think you listed off the other day, Charles, like a whole bunch of certifications that you have that I don't have here, but talk to us for a minute about your certifications.
Oh, for anyone who's into certifications, I have a master's degree in information technology. I am project management professional certified, Evernote certified, Asana certified, and certifiable.
Well, and I love that. And that is not, I think it's meaningful from the standpoint of people understanding, what you know, how you work, some of the ways that you can help people. So for example, I've been through several of Charles' courses now, and he's the guy that helped me learn Evernote, which there's a story that somebody else in our circle of friends shares about, like, being the guy who had Evernote on his phone and never once opened it or used it. I was in that same bucket, and now it is literally an app that I use every day. And it's just been a few months since I took that course and have been using it. And it really, from a productivity standpoint, from an information standpoint, nowadays, I think that the biggest challenge is information management. And for sure, the people that I work with and that I serve have the same challenges. And Charles is your guy. So welcome, Charles. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people that don't know you and haven't heard your story yet, take us back to your roots of how you got started in this area, productivity, systems, technology. What were your roots?
Yeah, well, I worked in the Silicon Valley for 15 years. I was a director at a billion-dollar software company, and I wanted all the freedom and magic that I read about that entrepreneurs had. I was like, I want to try that. So I left there and created my first product was a low-ticket productivity course, and I got very good at marketing that using joint ventures and relationship building and connecting with people. And I learned very early that relationships are everything, and to move those forward and have them be long term, there's a couple focus areas: providing value first, and then not letting details fall through the cracks, so you can move those forward to positive outcomes for everyone involved.
What age were you when you realized the importance and value of relationship and relationship building?
Well, I've always been social, but
Hmm.
when it comes to the topic of relationships and business, for one, I was a pretty new entrepreneur and did not have everything figured out, of course. And so, really, I went to two back-to-back events that happened to be in Austin 2 weekends apart. And I'm sitting across from a guy who gets 90,000 downloads of his blog a month, and another guy next to me making 24 million a year. And I was like, wait a minute, I, even when I create a product at the time, I have no one to sell it to. Like, I don't have a list at all. I don't have any connections. And I figured out really fast, well, why don't you make friends with the person who has the list of 90,000 people? Um, and, then you start thinking, well, how can I provide someone value who is already so far along in their journey? And what I came to the conclusion of is we're all human and we all need something. And so if we pay attention to what other people are trying to accomplish, we can help find shortcuts to get them there. That could be an introduction. It could be a referral to their ideal clients. It could be recommending a certain tool or event. So simply by listening first, we can find ways to provide others value, and that opens the door to all kinds of opportunities. Basically, I was doing an interview with Jordan Harbinger, and he says, dig the well before you're thirsty. And it's so true and valuable, because if you didn't hear from me for a year and a half, and then I'm like, hey, Heather, I'm doing a promotion next week. Do you want a mail for it? And you're like, dude, where the hell have you been? Versus you and I talk all the time. We share info, we share referrals and conversations and all kinds of fun things like that. Like, if you ever ping me, I'm going to go drop everything to make sure you get what you need, because we have a real relationship. And that mindset, done systematically, builds beautiful relationships with an array of people and provides value everywhere you go.
Well, and the thing that I love most about what you teach is this concept of not letting people, right? Not letting relationships really slip through the cracks, which happens so easily, but not intentionally. People don't intend to go to an event, not be able to engage in all the follow-up, right? And things do slip through the cracks. And I remember the first time we met, you pulled out your phone, and I remember being like, what's he doing? Like, looking at your phone, right? And you pulled up the Brain or whatever that app was, with all the lines, and you were asking me what I did and blah, blah, blah. And you were just literally like plugging me into this system that I could tell took lots of time and energy to create and track. But I was so intrigued because, one of the struggles that I have as somebody who loves people, loves connecting with people at events, is that even despite my best efforts, and I've got a lot of activation energy, ultimately there would be folks slipping through the cracks when I returned and had to get back to regular life. And so I love how you approach the trainings across multiple points. I mean, but involving systems and how we track information and making small tweaks and creating a new habit so that that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think of it like this. I came up with this a week or two ago, and I'm going with it because it's great. Just take 2 extra seconds now to save 2 hours later.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
literally two quick seconds to capture things in a system you trust. So later it will be there exactly when you need it. You'll be reminded of it exactly when you need to do something. So relationships aren't falling through the cracks. I was on the marketers cruise, which I've done a few times, but I met this couple there and we had dinner, and afterward I followed up, and he was like, out of 450 marketers on that boat, 2 people followed up, and you're one of them. And I ended up with a speaking gig in Newport Beach from it. And so that was the first time I met Lisa Sasevich, who I interviewed, did a Facebook Live with like a few weeks ago. So one thing always leads to another, but having systems to connect with people, remember how you connected, because back when humans did events, someone could hand you a business card, someone else would add you on LinkedIn, someone else would add you on Facebook, and most people don't keep track of any of that. And then everyone's life gets busy, and they just move forward, and those opportunities, all those conversations and interactions just fade into the rearview mirror, which is all kinds of people you're not able to serve. It's all kinds of revenue that isn't coming
Mhm.
in. So having those systems for connecting, taking the 2 seconds now to save 2 hours later, not hunting for something or missing one of those opportunities, and doing that systematically. That's how I book 2 to 6 joint venture webinars every week. It's why for the last 2 weeks in a row, I've received 9 referrals each week. Like, by the way, thank you for yours.
Always happy to send you a referral, Charles.
And so it just, it lends itself to, I call it the system that, you can't fail using the system. It's the system that makes success inevitable.
Well, and you bring up a good point. You go to an event and there's all these ways that we can connect with people either at the event or afterwards, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, exchanging phone numbers, collecting business cards, whatever. And yes, hopefully someday in the not too distant future, we get to return to events. One of my last events, actually the last event before COVID, Charles and I were at least the last event that I attended.
Me too. And it was fantastic.
It was fabulous. And that was the first event that I got to implement your system, right? So, what I had learned, because I, like so many other people, had struggled with follow up, even though I love people, I was diligent in not giving business cards, but collecting. I'm a business card collector. Like, I realized the power is in getting the information, not giving it.
Totally.
Right. So, I had that right. But the best that I could do sometimes was like pick out the top folks that I had time to sit down and email immediately. And if, and again, my systems are still growing and changing based on some of the things I've learned from Charles. But now what I need to do is actually schedule in the follow-up time, because like I followed the system last time at the event, took all the notes. Charles has this brilliant way of putting things into Evernote and various places. I'm right now just trying to exclusively learn Evernote. But I came home from that last event and literally like 2 days later, COVID hit, right? Where we were in lockdown, kids were home from school. And so my follow-up suffered for different reasons, but I had all the information in one place.
Right. Well, I'll mention too, you asked me about COVID and I'm like, don't worry about it.
Well, I had this like eerie, weird feeling while we were at that event. Like there was just, and I don't know if it was just the intuitive part of me, but I felt like we were all about to be hit with a tidal wave and like nobody was talking about the tidal wave. Right. And being somebody who serves entrepreneurs in this space, like I got home from that event, literally like 2 days later, pulled my kid out of school here. Within a week, Seattle was on lockdown. And then my first email that I sent out to my list, which was like March 3rd or 4th or something, was literally the subject line, what COVID may mean for your business, right? And it had 5 things that people needed to be looking at and analyzing and changing. And part of that was finances and looking at insurance options. And anyways, like really early stuff, but there it was.
There was, I'll point out, the same techniques work just as well on Zoom meetings. So I've been doing a lot of different Zoom meetings. I'm in different groups and even free events that actually didn't exist as free events before. Like my friend David Gonzalez runs the Internet Marketing Party that was an in-person event and now it's on Zoom. The first one of those that I went to, there was 65 people on that call and I booked 8 follow-up calls off of one Zoom meeting. So it's the exact same thing. You can use the chat, you can ping people, check in. You and I are in other groups together. You can do the same thing. And then that systematic follow-up from those 8 people, 2 became clients. I booked 3 joint ventures out of that. So although in person's preferred and a lot more fun, the same techniques and principles work just fine. And some of the groups I'm in, like I'm in a weekly mastermind with Eben Pagan, Jeff Walker, Stu McLaren, Marie Forleo, for folks like that. opportunities are springing up left and right, and referrals are coming in. And so systematically following up with those folks, systematically connecting and providing value. And really, introductions are an amazing way to do it, because it's not like you're committing a ton of time. You can do an intro in, from 1 to 10 minutes to just, put them together. You're a pro at that. And when you're designing win-wins for other people, you're connecting the dots for others, you're providing both of them a ton of value. So whenever your name comes up, they're like, Heather's amazing. And so it puts you in a good light. It brings in revenue, it brings in business opportunities, and it just creates this wake in front of you of goodwill. And a silly analogy that I use that's actually true, I feel like I'm in Scrooge McDuck's money pit and I have only so many hands and pockets. There's so much opportunity, it's ridiculous. And COVID's been horrible for so many sectors of the economy, but those of us with online businesses, not universally, but majorly, they're doing better than ever. They're, because everyone needs to have a way to make money without leaving their house.
Yeah. Well, and it really, yes, I agree. So many people that I connect with and speak with who have been online already for some time, like they've transitioned into this. And, maybe there was a little bit of recalibration, just seeing how clients or people were going to respond. But so many people have actually done well during COVID, which, is reassuring to see. The thing I love that you said about creating this basically like wave of goodwill in front of you, it just rings true so much. I mean, knowing you now, for some time, and the way that you train people to think about systematizing that function in their business, systematizing the way that they approach relationship building. Why don't you think most people do that on their own very naturally?
Well, I think there's a few reasons. One is something I call the reciprocation trap, where maybe there's someone you'd like to approach either to become a client or to line up a joint venture promotion type of opportunity, but perhaps you feel that, well, I can't equate, like, let's use in the joint venture context. So if one person has, let's say, a 15,000 person list and someone else has a 50,000 person list, they'll feel like, well, I can't match the support that one can give the other, so I'm not even going to bring it up. And or they'll think, Heather's probably busy. I would like to get in touch, but she's busy, and I'm just going to go to Facebook and do something else instead. And so these little opportunities, when people come to mind, or you just get this little spark of, this person would be perfect for Heather. Heather could totally help them. That little spark, listen to it, follow it. I have this thing, when someone comes to mind, just ping them, like just a little message. And that was a learned behavior. I didn't wake up that way. I mean, I trained myself to do that. And so I'll be brushing my teeth and realize that I've texted 2 people already because they popped into my head. I'm like, hey, what's up? Walking the dog, you came to mind. How's it going? What are you working on that has you excited? Those conversations, the connection equals opportunity for everybody.
Yes. No, and I love that, because the part for me, like, especially people who, really want to create big things. And I was mentioning this book that I was talking about, First You Have to Row a Little Boat. And it's just a beautiful book, but part of it is about this kid who literally manifests a sailboat, and both of his parents have died. Had died. He was a teenager at the time, right? Had no means himself to acquire this, but through just focusing and talking to people, if you look at his path, and really you look at anything involving, what we call manifesting, it involves communication with other people. This is how things come about, right? Is putting our ideas and our energy out into the world. And so you're right, the connection is where we get opportunity. It's through the knowing of other people and having dialogue about it. It's not what we know, right? A lot of people, I think, hunker down and think that they have to work on themselves, develop more knowledge, do all the things, and be on this like solo journey of business development or business building. And it really can be so, so different. So, what else do you spot that people are doing wrong?
Let's see. Well, some easy things are, don't start a conversation with what you're looking for, like what you want. It should
Mm,
always be focused on what someone else wants. So just going into every interaction with that in mind, that's some very low hanging fruit. Um, it's like when you get those Facebook messages and from someone you don't even know, and they're like, "Oh, we just need this much more money to launch our thing," and you're like, "Who the hell are you? And are you kidding?" Um, so basically, just starting with that altruistic seed planted
mm,
first, and then as you're interacting, um, track the follow-ups and actually do them. That's another place people fall short very often, and it's because we all have busy lives and there's only so much bandwidth. But that's why having systems you trust enable you to manage so much more. It's not
mm-hmm.
an indefinite amount of stuff, but it's certainly more than most people, and that creates so much more opportunity for you to serve and connect and follow up, so that you are landing more clients, you are filling your group programs, you are booking more stages, podcasts, or booking joint ventures.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine that the parts, and I'm curious how you do it for yourself because I know you're a master at this. I think there's two parts to the follow-up: tracking what needs to be done, right? Who you've connected with and what comes next, and then also making the time for it, right? And that's the part that I am personally working on, is like balancing the time that it takes to follow up and do all the stuff in conjunction, balancing that at the same time with all the stuff I'm already doing.
Yeah, so one of the ways you can do that is through time blocking. I call it time locking, and it's recurring things on the calendar that um, give you the time, so that it's not devoured with meetings all day.
Mm,
And some days end up that way, but um, just as an example, I do a lot, as you know, I do a lot of webinar joint venture promotion. So I have every Tuesday and Thursday blocked, so I know for sure I can always book a promotion on those days. And then if I don't have a promotion, I have this window of time. And so I'm all about frictionless systems. So today I sat down, I opened my today template for planning the day. Inside there was 5 slots for private consulting follow-up, 5 slots for joint venture follow-ups, and a list of introductions I'm doing. And basically I had the time blocked between meetings, and went through and just shot videos for every one of them, just one after another. And basically blocking the time so that you're able to actually do it.
yeah.
That's a key part, because otherwise what you don't want to have happen is you're in meetings all day, and by the time you're exhausted, you have a to-do list that never ends. And so definitely need to create the time to actually follow up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really key. I mean, I find myself in this trap that you're talking about right now of like my days are so full, trying to condense what I feel like is probably 8 or 10 or 12 hours of work down into really a half day, because my husband and I are splitting childcare duties during COVID. He goes into work as an essential employee every day. But the scheduling part, I find I get done with a day, like you say, of all these back-to-back calls. And then sometime that evening before I go to bed, I've got to actually do the follow-up, send the email, make the introductions. And so I'm laughing every time I'm doing that, right? And it's like 11 midnight. I'm like, people are going to think I'm crazy
Well,
sending LinkedIn introductions at midnight.
yeah, well, another great way to do it, which I recommend, is chunking them. So I'll have a list of, I've been giving out 15 to 25 intros a week.
Mm.
And so obviously that's a decent volume. So I'll try to fit them in like one or two in between meetings, but I'll just make a collection of them. And I'm a big fan of doing intros over video. For one, it's a lot more personal. People see you, they pick up on, your energy and body language and all of that. And the fact is, it's way faster after you get, the hang of it. The other day I was doing some intros and I did some on video, and then it was toward the end of the day and I was looking pretty tired. I'm like, I'm not going to send this last one because I look like I'm going to fall over. So I went to handwrite it, hand type it. And it took so much longer. I'm like, video, I can have an intro out in a minute and 20 seconds. So it's not actually a huge time commitment to do them. And
Yes.
so by chunking them, I did this today for the JV outreaches, for the intros, and for the sales follow-ups. They were just one after another. Here's a video to Heather. Here's a video to Jay. Here's a video to whoever. And so that saves you from that task switching and trying to get in the mental headspace and get in your energy where you want it.
Yes. No, I
So
love that. Are you tracking your intros all in one place? Like, how do you save yourself on the like hunting down what intros you have to do?
sure. So there's a couple parts to that, but to kind of focus on the simple part.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you and I are in a conversation, which we are. I have an Evernote window up as I would do on every meeting.
Yep.
And because it's part of the power trifecta: tools, workflows, and habits.
Mm.
So anytime there's an action, let's say I had a couple intros for you, I capture them in Evernote and I put the little task check mark beside it. So at the end of the call, I can glance at the notes and see exactly what the follow-up actions are. And then I either put those follow-ups into a task manager, or I'll copy a link to that Evernote note and put that in the task manager to say Heather's intros. And then I click it, it takes me straight to the Evernote note, and I can put those intros in. And then if I'm batching a group of intros, I'll just write down the names left and right so that I don't have to go look anything up, and I just go one after another after another.
I love that. Well, and just, I mean, for anybody listening, you can tell the level of thought, like this is second nature for you now. I mean, and I suspect that your personality is inclined towards organization to begin with, right?
I would say I'm fortunate because I have a full-on creative side, but I also will nerd out with the best of them. So actually it serves well, because some people who are really social, they don't have the system side, and other
Mm-hmm.
people that have systems but they're not social, I can kind of bridge the two and bring systematic benefits to both.
Yes. Well, I think there's so many ways that people intend to do this stuff the right way, but if they lack the organization, right? If they just lack having the framework for how to approach something, it's really easy not to get it right.
Yeah, I've figured this out in myself and certainly in others. If there's any resistance points to doing something, we likely won't do it. And I'll give you some silly examples, but they're very true. I have a treadmill desk in my office. If there is one empty Amazon box sitting on it, I probably won't walk on it because there's something in the way. I mean, it would literally take half a second to move it, but nah, I'll just sit down. Um, or I have a chair I meditate in before bed. If there's any clothes on there, I won't be meditating. If it's nice and clean and looks inviting, I will. So
Mm-hmm.
we want frictionless systems. We want to take the thinking out of it so that habits take over, and the habits are so frictionless and everything links to everything else that you'd need. You're spoon fed exactly how to do things, because then you can stay in the flow state and actually just function instead of having that flow constantly turned off, or you're figuring out where something is or how to find it or how to do it, that friction resistance point means we're probably going to just bail on it, and YouTube will be playing shortly.
That concept of friction resistance, I mean, even those examples, they're funny, but it's because they're true, right? We all can relate to those. Like, oh, well, this thing is in the way, or there's too many dishes in the sink. I thought there was going to just be one, whatever. Like, I'm not going to wash them now. I'm curious, and you can totally tell me to go fly a kite. What are the ways, because, we're talking mostly about business and the way that people can improve their systems, the way they support relationships in business. But I'm curious some examples, because I'm sure you have them, of ways that you've tried to eliminate friction, like in your personal life or in other areas of life, to support better habits. Are you okay sharing on those?
Oh yeah, this is a constant evolution. So it's from everything from, keeping the house organized, which, because we're human, that doesn't always work as planned.
It doesn't do itself, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't. So it's tinkering with systems. So I'll give you an example for around the house. So I'm a big fan of a couple books that one is Atomic Habits, highly recommended. The other is The Four Disciplines of Execution. I've been in the productivity space and systems for a while, and that was one of those books where I'm like, damn, okay, this is great. And one of the things that it covers in the Four Disciplines of Execution is having a visual scoreboard. So you can tell if you're winning or losing just by glancing. And so like my daughter has the job of helping with the dishes. She's 12. And so they, sometimes they were done, many times they weren't. And I'm like, okay, what's missing here? A scoreboard. So we got one of those big Post-it note, like big Post-it things, stuck it on the kitchen door, put a calendar. So when she does the dishes, she puts a dot so you can glance over and see immediately. And since then, she can have like 2 days off. If she has 4 days off, she gets less. And if she does all the days, she gets a bonus. And by having that visual system, the dishes are usually always done. The downstairs it's like having a live-in help. It's great. So we have those up for working out. We have them. I have them for work stuff. I have them for. I have digital systems for this, but sometimes for fun, I'll make the same kind of board for sales and JV outreach, just for that physical moving stuff around, like contacted them. And it in a way, it gamifies it and makes it physical. It makes it so you can glance and see if you've been winning or losing at whatever your stated goals are.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up the books. I was hoping you were going to mention some of your favorite books. I have them both, by the way. I have not read either of them.
They're badass.
They're actually sitting upstairs on my kitchen table. One of the things I've unfortunately not had a lot of time for during COVID is reading.
I can help with that. So I'm a fan of Kindle and audiobooks. And so this is actually one of the things you'll learn in the Atomic Habits book, which I was doing anyway, and it just was a nice reinforcement. And that's fitting a specific habit in a certain place in your day. So just as an example, I was taking a course on the language we use and the way we think and frame things up. And they're 5-minute modules. So when I was making breakfast, coffee, I'd play one of those because I'm there anyway. It's a computer in the kitchen. So I'd play a 5-minute module, and then I go on my morning run. And on the morning run, I listen to Stu McLaren's Tribe program. So you have a specific place for doing specific things, and you take that into your personal life, and you certainly take it into your professional life. So you have a flow to everything, and it's very empowering. It's basically we're liberated by following the system, and when we fall off the system, we see everything else kind of start collapsing around. So
So true. Well, and I'm excited to read those books. And yes, I need to build more of those kind of supportive but small pieces into my day. Um, Part of it is it felt like everything went off the rails for a while, right? My schedule depended on my husband's schedule, right? And then when we had to manage my son's school schedule and therapy schedule, everything was about Zoom and other people's schedules, not mine. But the thing that I've done that really rings true about what you're talking about in the Atomic Habits is the visual tracking, right? So like I put up on the other day a habit tracker on the side of the fridge where everybody in the family gets to see, like, I didn't make a big point of it, but where I have to see it every day, am I doing these simple things, right? And from the day that I put it up, I haven't missed one day of like going out for my daily walk. And I was not walking before, but just having that visual reminder. I wasn't walking consistently, I should say, which is why I needed to start a habit tracker.
yeah, the consistent reminder and things like that. Like I used to wake up and go, am I going to work out today? I don't know. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Then I was like, I will work out every day. Then that question's answered. Am I working out today? Yes. Put on your shoes. Let's go.
There you go. I like that. I know. It's so great. And like down in my office, I track all of my sales every month here and again with the visual tracker. So the power of that, I know for me, I've probably learned it in painful fits and spurts. Like, oh yeah, this works. I should do it again, right? But I think it's human nature to fall off the wagon sometimes and forget or not be doing things with systems that support us.
Yeah, it's true. I was having a couple conversations with David Allen about this, and he was like, it's normal to fall off your system, but since you have a system, you know exactly how to get right back on.
Yes.
And it's very true. I mean, none of us do this stuff perfectly, but the better we get at it, the better everything else goes, the more opportunities come in. I mean, and when you bring it back to the business world, it's it just builds on itself. It's a slowly growing snowball, and it's led. That's how I was able to get 25 partners on my launch. It's why I've been getting 9 referrals a week, and that means landing clients consistently and landing JVs consistently. And so it creates dependable revenue. It creates multiple lead sources. You systematize everything, and not that it's perfect to start with. You just get going. Like when I started my group program, we just scheduled it and launched it. And then every time it gets more sophisticated. Each time it keeps
Hmm.
getting better. The graphics get better. The checklists and outlines get better, and you just build on it.
I love that. So, a couple questions before we wrap up. One, I want to know what's your favorite thing about your work or what you get to do?
It's connecting with wonderful people like you. It's
Oh,
the
good answer.
yeah. Well, it's true. It's the relationships. It's
Mhm.
like like when we're talking and our friend Brady just messaged me, and like it's all these cool people out doing amazing things in the world, and just being part of it, just serving people who are doing awesome things. And it's this network of, it's definitely the relationships.
Mhm.
It's very satisfying to have just a network of lovely, awesome humans that you care about them, they care about you. Everyone's kind of watching out for each other and creating opportunities left and right. It's very satisfying.
I love that. And I agree. I mean, I'm a person who just loves people as well, and it's a huge high in my work. On the flip side, when you're doing the work and you are supporting clients, what tends to be one of the biggest frustrations? Do you have moments of like, oh, I wish that, if like all of your clients, I mean, I know not, they probably don't all fit in the same boat, but like if there was one thing that you wish that they did differently or thought about differently, what would that be?
One thing that, well, there's different kinds of clients, so that would vary, but
Mhm.
some of my favorite to work with they're the action takers. You tell them something, and the next time you talk to them, they've done it, and they've already gotten the results from doing it. Like my friend Tim Francis, he was just voracious at taking on like what I was teaching and consulting on, and he booked 13 talks and webinars in 11 days, just following what I said. Or Matthew McGregor, like getting his system up and going for joint ventures. And, you know, he just did a JV probably a couple of weeks ago that brought in 38 grand. Like, it's so to have people listen to what you say, do what you say, and get results. It's insanely satisfying. Yeah, I would say probably taking action. And what I like about, and this isn't easy to do, so I'm not pretending it is, but if you're actually taking something on, open the space to actually take it on. If you're taking it on with 80 other things, everything's getting a diluted amount of your attention. And I mean, it will never be perfect, but like if you're picking up something new, like actually get it going.
Yes,
Before,
be all in if you're going to do it.
Yeah, and focus on the 80-20 of it. You don't have to have everything dialed in, but get it so it's meaningfully supporting you. And you know, it's like the difference of other folks who are a little too, they have so much going on, they feel they don't have time to actually improve what they're doing, which means it will never get easier for them. So it's whatever your day is, following the Kaizen continuous improvement, put a little bit of time toward improving what you're doing, making your system a little simpler every time, so that it keeps optimizing. Because I have one of my best clients is an 85-year-old guy. He did everything I told him, and his revenue grew from 200K to 600K in a year. And then other people, my dad, I still can't get him to take my Evernote course, and so nothing he does gets easier.
Oh my gosh, the contrast, right? And well, and it's true. I love that you probably do work with quite a few people that are good action takers, but also struggle with the reality of spreading themselves a little too thin sometimes and not being able to fully commit or fully try something the way that they should. So,
Yeah, and I fall in that trap too. I mean, we're creative people who want to do a bunch of things, and in our head we commit to things in a vacuum. We're like, oh, I could do that. Yeah, you can, but you're committed to 19 other things. So that's actually where the 4 disciplines of execution will help too, because it's like, what are your 1 or 2 top goals that you're going to do for sure? And you know, when it comes to lead generation, when it comes to sales follow-up, joint venture follow-up, having those baked in near bulletproof systems, that's what brings dependable revenue. That's what brings in you know, referrals and systematically following up with those folks. And you know, some days are easier than others, and that's why we want balance. We want good night's sleep. We want to be eating healthy, working out, so that we're our peak self and not dragging through the day, which again happens to all of us. I'm not pretending it's all perfect, but like systematically trying to make everything better.
I love that. I feel like that's a great point to wrap up on. A couple things. And so for folks listening, I highly recommend, if any of this has piqued your interest, learning about systems, learning about how to really improve the quality of your relationships, which also improve your business. Let's be clear, those things go hand in hand. But especially for people who are relationship driven, who really enjoy that aspect of being in business, make sure you check out I'm going to put the various links of where you like to connect, your online sites, anything that you want me to share, Charles, in the show notes. So folks, you can find those at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Charles, where do you like to connect?
There, like you said, there's a few places. People can check out dependablerevenue.com. I have a group program that I walk people through how to get these systems in place and how to connect and follow up. I also run an event called Pure JV. You can go to purejv.com to learn about that. And yeah, those ought to do it for now.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to share those links. What final thoughts do you want to leave people with who've been listening today before we sign off?
Oh, well, one, I'd like to give you guys a free gift, which is a mind map of the JV systems for doing joint ventures. You can go to mindmap.purejv.com, mindmap.purejv.com. And really, one simple thing, and that is just reach out to 5 people today. Just send them a message on Messenger, ping them on LinkedIn, shoot them a text, shoot them an email, 5 people, and do that every day.
Love that. Well, it is really magical what happens through the power of connection. So I love that as a final piece of advice. Be sure to check out Charles's gift, his links. Charles, thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you as a person, as a friend. Thank you for joining me on my podcast and sharing all your brilliance. Not all of it, sharing a little tiny piece of it.
That was it.
That was it. All of Charles in 1 hour. Just kidding.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Heather. I'm a fan of you and your work as well. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. Well, we'll definitely have you back. There's so much more to talk about, but really appreciate you. Talk soon.